Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the King Jordan Radio Show, Season 5, Episode 27. Here we are on May 4th, 2017. Tonight should be a very interesting show, as we'll look back at the Menendez brothers 27 years later. Also, we will talk about Happy Days star Erin Moran, who only lived to 56. So sad. Michael Slager, the North Carolina police officer, pleaded guilty. Very sad situation for those of you following Baby Chance. His father, who did some terrible things to him, will be serving 45 years, and a lot of you have told me that you don't think that's even just. So we'll talk about that. Okay. In the top of the next hour, we are scheduled to be with Phoenix defense attorney Jason Lamm. So he will be catching up with us at the top of the hour. Also, right now, let's bring in, he is a legal analyst, a New York defense attorney. In fact, if you need an attorney, you could call him anytime. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Alex Sanchez joins us. Hi, Alex. How are you?
Jordan, how's it going? And it's great to be back and get a chance to interact with your audience. And I look forward to a great show tonight, as always.
Yeah, a lot of things going on. And, wow, let's start with the Happy Days star, Erin Moran, that died at 56. Here's some sound, and we'll talk on the other side.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Peter Downs.
And I'm Andrea Fuji, in tonight for Elsa Ramon. We begin tonight with breaking news.
Sunday, Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days. The weekend comes, the cycle hums.
Actress Erin Moran was found dead. The former child actress was best known for playing Joni Cunningham on the hit TV show Happy Days.
KCAL 9's Christy Fajardo is live in the newsroom with a look back at the former sitcom star whose real life was hit with hard times. Christy.
Yeah, Peter and Andrea, tonight condolences are coming in from Moran's former co-stars. A dispatcher says late this afternoon they got a 911 call in Corydon, Indiana about an unresponsive woman. When help arrived, it was too late. Moran was already dead. Moran, who was born in Burbank, skyrocketed to stardom when she landed the role of Joni Cunningham on Happy Days in the 70s. She was just 14 at the time and became a household name. The show was such a hit, it ran for 11 seasons, and Moran eventually got her own spin-off, along with Scott Baio. The show was called Joni Loves Chachi. She also appeared on The Love Boat, The Bold and the Beautiful, and Murder, She Wrote, and ventured into reality TV in 2008 on Celebrity Fit Club. She may have had a charmed early life, but her later years were plagued by hardship. In 2012, she was reportedly homeless after her mother-in-law kicked her out of her trailer home in Indiana due to hard partying. Tonight, co-star Henry Winkler, who played the Fonz on the hit show, tweeted, "Oh, Erin, now you will finally have the peace you wanted so badly here on Earth. Rest in it serenely now, too soon." Fellow former child star Erin Murphy, known as Little Tabitha on Bewitched, also tweeted, "So sad to share that my friend Erin Moran has passed away. Rest in peace, sweet girl." Actor Willie Ames tweeted, "I've known Erin Moran since childhood doing Gunsmoke, more recently as a troubled soul. So saddened to hear of her passing. Rest in peace, Erin. Hugs and kisses." And just minutes ago, director Ron Howard tweeted this. He played Moran's older brother Richie on Happy Days. "Such sad, sad news. Rest in peace, Erin. I will always choose to remember you on our show, making scenes better, getting laughs, and lighting up TV screens." Officials in Indiana say an autopsy will be performed to determine the exact cause of death. Moran was 56 years old. Back to you.
Alex Sanchez is a very troubling First of all, reportedly she was homeless in 2012. Other reports had her doing really bad, as a lot of child stars that grow up in fame and on television do. What's your take on this situation with this former star?
You know, I mean, what can you say? It's very pathetic. You know, I always wonder what happens when the curtain comes down. You know, people have their moment of fame and glory and recognition, but at some point the curtain came down on her, as it does on other people. And I've always been very curious about the journey that these people take once that curtain does go down. Some people end up making, you know, a nice life for themselves. Some people go into business. Some people continue in other areas of the arts, or they continue to progress in their field. But others, because of their own challenges, maybe physical challenges, maybe mental challenges, maybe addiction-related challenges, somehow they veer off and they go in a direction that nobody expected. And they end up like Erin Moran, drinking heavily, drugs, and living in cheap motels. And, you know, when it all is said and done, it was very pathetic, because she achieved quite a bit of success. But all that success could not prevent her from this fantastic fall. So it was pretty pathetic. That's my feelings about it.
Well, and look what happened with Robert Blake. A lot of people think he murdered his wife. Of course, he was found not guilty, but found liable in the civil case. That's another. I didn't really see him before my time. I don't know if you ever saw Mr. Blake. And if you did,
well, I never met Robert Blake, but he made like one of the greatest movies that was ever made. One of the greatest crime movies, called In Cold Blood. And in that movie, he played the part of a murderer with two guys.
Oh my!
Two guys decided to go and raid a farmhouse in Indiana somewhere, and they ended up murdering the whole family. And he was absolutely superb in that movie. Superb. If you like dark, brutal movies, this is the movie to see. So he had talent, and he did some TV shows, and he was a talented guy. But obviously, you know, as I've said before, and I'll say it again, you could be very talented, and you could be very troubled. And they're not mutually exclusive. You could be both at the same time. I mean, just look at Bill Cosby, very talented, funny guy, but he's got all these demons that have, circulating in his soul.
Next month will be
and
the
you could
trial
say this
with
about,
that. Yep.
You could say this about O.J. Simpson. I mean, you could say this about a lot of people, and you could say it about Robert Blake. And somehow he got mixed up, and he was found guilty in a civil case, not the criminal case, but a civil case, of committing this murder against this woman. And she may have been a troubled
Bonnie
person.
Blake, right?
But when you cross the line into murder, there's something very wrong that has gone on within your own soul.
Yeah, I totally agree with you 100%. Okay, so let's get into this disturbing details with this baby Chance. Here's some sounds, and we'll talk on the other side.
Major update tonight in the case of missing baby Chance. Both parents of the 9-week-old baby are now charged with murder of the infant. Fox Tampa Bay reporter Evan Axelbank has been following the story. He's live in Tampa. Evan, what's the latest?
Well, Greta, you remember that the grandparents' suspicions were that Kristen and Joe, the boy's parents, knew what happened to him. And we have now learned that, you remember, they begged for Kristen and Joe, the boy's parents, to come forward and tell deputies what happened. Well, we learned today that Kristen, the boy's mother, did, in fact, do that. She told deputies that they dug their own son's shallow grave. It's just unbelievable. On September 16th, this all started. There was an argument between Joe and Kristen, the boy's parents. Now, during that argument, the father beat the baby to death, according to the admissions by the boy's mother. Now, at that point, they have a decision to make. Do we call 911 or not? They decided not to call 911 because she said, I don't want to lose you both, obviously knowing that Joe would be in quite a bit of trouble. So their decision was to put the baby in a crib and in a closet for 8 days while the boy decomposed. Now, after those 8 days, Kristen started to complain of the smell. Obviously, it had been there for so long. So they wrapped the baby in plastic bags, and according to her admissions, they dug a shallow grave 13 miles from their home and buried baby Chance. Now, on September 27th, we remember that they fled the state. They went to South Carolina and they went to Georgia, in their words, to start a new life. Now, during that trip, they'd been in a car crash. They'd run into some people without the baby, and they lied to deputies, saying that the baby died in a car crash, that they had given the baby away to somebody who would rob them. At the end of the day, they were taken into custody for child neglect. The baby, Greta, was reported missing on October 4th, and Kristen told deputies eventually, after all this national attention that this story got, that she and the boy's father did, in fact, bury the baby. They knew what happened. Remember, Greta, they found blood in the home. All the story that they had told deputies just wasn't adding up. And finally, according to the documents that we got today, Kristen cracked. She told deputies where baby Chance was. They dug him up, and they found him only in his diaper.
Evan, I don't know who's worse, the mother or the father. It's like what a horrible story, that poor infant. So anyway, Evan, thank you for the latest, Evan.
Tragedy in all the way with this father. When you read this story and heard about it, what did you think, Alex?
What do I think? I don't get it. I don't get it. You know, when I was looking at that story, I looked at a picture of that baby. The kid looked like an angel to me. He was a beautiful little boy. He almost looked like a miniature man that was a baby.
Yes.
A beautiful kid, though. I mean, you know, who on earth would beat and murder a 9-week-old baby? How dead is your soul? How far are you removed from humanity that you would engage in that type of behavior? And it wasn't just one person.
Right.
She's just as culpable as he is, because if she was there and she's covering up for him, and then she doesn't want to call the police, or she doesn't stop him from beating the baby, and then decides, you know, let's just put him in the closet like he's, you know, dirty linen or something like that. It's astonishing. It's astonishing that there are people in this world that act like this. And, you know, I'm a defense lawyer. I defend people all the time. I've defended people like this. But, you know, from a citizen's point of view,
murdering a child?
I've defended people that have severely hurt children and severely have beaten children. Yes. And it's not a fun practice, believe me. And the typical type of defense that you may have in a case like this is, well, first of all, did the person do it? That's number one. But assuming there's a lot of evidence that they did it, because quite often in cases like that, these people have made a lot of admissions of guilt. The next step after that is you want to bring as much information as you can about the mental health of the parents, and, you know, whether they have been a whole history of mental health concerns, or they're on medication or drugs. You do everything you can to try to, you know, bring some type of defense to mitigate the penalty in this case. That's what defense attorneys do. But from a citizen's point of view, I don't even want to hear that. As far as I'm concerned, these people are monsters. And when you said 45 years wasn't enough, I'm with you on that one. When you start hurting
a lot of
kids,
people are saying that.
oh, you've crossed lines. You've crossed some very serious lines. And why should this guy even have any opportunity to see the light of day? What, this kid didn't experience pain because he's a baby? People think that. Well, he's a baby. He didn't experience. No, he experienced pain, just like you would experience pain. This guy took a rag and shoved it down the kid's throat. You don't think that hurt? You don't think the kid was choking? Imagine if that was you. No, I don't have sympathy. No, I don't have sympathy for this guy. He's got to go. He's got to go.
And obviously, somebody has to defend him. And,
and I think that is, in our system of justice, everybody's entitled to a defense, and I'm all for it. Let him provide the best defense he can, and if he could somehow mitigate, the punishment, all power to the defense attorney. But looking at it from a citizen's point of view, I'm tired of hearing it. I want this guy to pay some very serious penalty, and I don't want him to see the light of day again. It's as simple as that.
Very fair. Okay, you did mention that Bill O'Reilly would wind up leaving Fox, and you proved to be right. So why don't you talk about that a little bit? And, called.
Yeah, the last time we did a show, this Bill O'Reilly was still, on the air, and there were these accusations coming out. And I told you and everybody else on the air, he's finished. He's basically turned a corner at this point. He's heading downhill. And you didn't believe me, and I don't think a lot of your viewers believed me. They thought I was just, it was just a lot of bluster, and I resent that. Now, the fact of the matter is that I was able to see something, and it caught fire, and you went down the tubes. Now, I have another prediction that I'm going to make, and I know some of the viewers aren't going to like this, but this is a prediction. It's not because I like or dislike the person, but the tea leaves that I'm reading tell me that Donald Trump at some point in the future is going to resign from being the president of the United States. Now, why am I saying that?
I think everybody would be happy.
Yeah.
I think most of our listeners.
I'm saying that because, number one, I think the Russians have a lot of dirt on him. Remember, he was going to Russia for a long period of time before he was president. I'm sure they got tapes of him. They got secret recordings of him. They got documents. This guy's he's got some, his fingerprints are everywhere, if not worse. And they will release it at the right time through the proper channels to get even with him if they don't like what he's doing. Number two, he's got so many financial issues going on that he's becoming very sloppy, And number three,
yes,
he looks like he's growing very tired. He was happy as a businessman. He could tell everybody what to do. He can't tell everybody what to do. He feels claustrophobic in the White House. I think that at some point the pressure's going to increase to such a degree that something's going to happen where his conduct is going to become more and more aberrational. I think Mike Pence is going to end up being the president of the United States.
Really? So he'll take over for him after...
Yeah, he resigns.
You think he's going to resign ultimately?
I think he's going to get caught up in something, and I think that the tides are going to turn against him, and I think he's going to have no choice but to resign, and he's going to be relieved, because I really get the feeling that he doesn't really want to be president of the United States. He liked his own little world.
Remember that day when he was elected? He was already planning a loss, because he said words to the effect of we're going to have a solid count just to make sure everything's on the up and up, and a lot of people took that as a defeat. So I think a part of him wasn't expected to win. didn't expect to win.
Oh, no, man, from what you were reading, I don't think he was expecting to win. I don't think most people expected him to win. I mean, I was sitting down in front of the TV, and I was astonished at what I saw. But he ended up winning. And he's the president of the United States. But I think that he's got a lot of troubled issues that are lurking in the background. And he doesn't have enough insight. No filter, and he doesn't have enough insight to realize that this is going to be the cause of his downfall. But at some point, he's going to realize. At some point, he's going to be made to understand that, you know what, it's all over, but the shouting. And he's going to resign. That's my prediction. Will I be wrong? Well, that remains to be seen. But let me tell you something. There was a professor in this country who was the only professor that predicted Donald Trump was going to win. His name was, I think, Lichtman, right? Well, this professor, after I predicted Trump was going to resign, he released a book. And what did he say in the book? He said Trump is going to end up losing his presidency. He's going to be impeached. So either way, whether he's impeached or whether he resigns in the face of impeachment, Trump's days are numbered.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. Can you see some maniac? I know there's a lot of protection, unlike in 1981 when John Lennon was killed. But can you see somebody try and knock off the president?
Well, there's a lot of nuts out there, and I sure hope somebody like that does not, make any such attempt to do that, because that's not the way we operate in this country, or we should not operate in this country. We operate in a democratic forum, and that's my hope. But we have a lot of guns in this country, and I'm not necessarily against people lawfully having guns as long as they're licensed and they're not have a history of serious mental illness. But there's an awful lot of guns in this country, an awful lot of weapons circulating, and I mean powerful guns. And it wouldn't be a terrible. I can easily see some lunatics, if they wanted to, putting together a cadre of people for the purposes of committing some atrocity like this. I hope it never happens, but it's not outside the realm of possibility in view of all the guns that are circulating in this country. But I think it's probably unlikely, because the most likely scenario is that the people that really have access to guns or are interested in guns are probably, mostly Donald Trump supporters. Let's face it, But all you need is a nut. All you need is one nut out there. Let's hope.
Okay, let's bring it to the program. I don't know if you ever did a program with him. I don't think on my show, but he covered the Jodi Arias case from A to Z. He was all over the HLN and CNN. He is a awesome defense attorney. Just got a great win recently. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to King Jordan Radio, the one and the only defense attorney, Jason Lamm. Good evening, Jason. How are you?
Hey, Jordan. I appreciate your intro, but all I was hearing, as I was coming on the line, is all it takes is just one nut, and then you bring me in. Was there something going on there I didn't know about?
Do that.
No, that was not.
Alex.
Yeah, Alex and I have talked before. But, I want to pick up on something where Alex left off. I want to dive right in. And, I live out in Arizona, and we are a very gun-friendly state. I don't know that necessarily that you have to be a Trump supporter to be, into guns. I will tell you that I do not have an arsenal, but I have guns. And I'm not exactly a fan of Mr. Trump. From our perspective, at least out here, and let me say that I've prosecuted gun cases, I've defended gun cases, it's a matter of perspective. It's about reasonableness. It's about training. So, with all due respect, Alex, I think it's more of a lot of shades of gray. And I don't think we can necessarily cookie cutter this issue. And this is one of the, driving issues that we see so much in the current presidential administration. It's very polarizing. But I think, like on a lot of the other issues, a lot of people are more in the middle. They're more centrist, and I consider myself one of them, simply because you have firearms does not mean that you're going to shoot up a movie theater or that you are supportive of automatic weapons or things of that nature. So just want to throw that out there, throw a little gasoline on the fire as I spend my first 2 minutes on the show tonight.
Well, actually, I agree with you, Jason. I think most gun owners are responsible people. As a matter of fact, my daughter, who was living out in Seattle for a while, when she was working at one of the large companies over there, she went and got herself a gun. You're allowed to get guns. And she was walking around with a gun. And she would, hold it for protection. She had it at home. I think you had to go and take courses and license, safety courses. That's really my only issue when it comes to guns. And maybe as a gun owner, you can explain it to me. Shouldn't anybody that is going to buy a gun have to prove that they understand the safety of a gun and all whatever the current rules and regulations about using guns? I don't understand those jurisdictions that let anybody just walk up to a counter and say, here's my license, I'm buying a gun, and walk out with a gun. That doesn't seem to make any kind of sense to me.
Well, I think you raised two different but very valid issues. Number one, any person who is responsible with firearms is going to understand how a gun works. They are going to understand the do's and don'ts and some of the legal requirements. Now, cash and carry is a whole other story, and I don't think that's particularly the norm. But what I will tell you, if you are out here and you are in the grocery store, there's still some Wild West leanings. We're pretty civilized by now. But there's a lot of times you'll see someone carrying openly. And in Arizona, and this kind of bothers me, you can actually carry concealed without a permit. Now, I do have a permit, even though I don't need it anymore. It's really good to level coffee tables with when you have that one leg that's like a 1/16 of an inch off, and that it allows you to skip the waiting period and carry in other states with reciprocity. But from a practical point of view, yes, if you have a gun, you need to know the rules. You need to handle it safely. But, again, that's just theory and common sense. That doesn't always translate to reality, as we know in our world.
By the way, Jason, if you ever come to New York, don't bring a gun. Unless you have a license. If you get caught with a gun in New York, let's say you have a gun in, it could be an unloaded gun in your right pocket, and let's say one bullet in your luggage. That's considered a loaded gun.
Alex, let me ask you a question. What if I played for the Giants? What if I played for the Giants? I was in a club and I had a gun and I accidentally shot myself in the leg and got 2 years in prison. What would you call me?
Yeah,
you'd call me Plexico Burris. That's what you'd call me.
But you know what? You're facing 3.5 years minimum just for possessing the gun. No prior record. You could be a sterling character. 3.5 years, which I think is insane. It's absolutely insane. Plaxico shot himself in a club. I think he should have got more than 2 years because he obviously took out the gun. I don't know if he was playing with it, but a gun went off. Somebody could have gotten killed.
Well, Alex, in all fairness, we don't know what happened. He might have been playing with himself, grabbed for something, and got the trigger. And there you go. And he's lucky it's only his thigh that he shot.
That's a good point. Okay, anyway, 27 years ago, we had an unspeakable crime, at least in a lot of people's minds. Here's some sound, and let's talk on the other
ABC
side.
News exclusive, an unprecedented look at a murder case that rocked a generation. Two Beverly Hills brothers, Eric and Lamm Menendez, convicted of killing their wealthy parents in a grisly double murder. It's been nearly 3 decades ago. It's a case that our Terry Moran has covered. You've covered this from the very start.
I have, a long time ago. And Robin, guys, it's a case that has haunted me all these years since I covered it as a young reporter. It's one of those that just grabbed a hold of me and never let go. The Menendez brothers' trial, at the time, it was called the crime of the century when it happened. And it had all the ingredients. Murder in Beverly Hills, a family shattered in the most horrifying way. And as the case unfolded, shocking accusations of what was really going on in that home. The victims, Jose Menendez, a Cuban immigrant to this country who'd made good, becoming a corporate chieftain on both coasts and ultimately rising to become a Hollywood power broker, and his wife, Kitty, who seemed an all-American wife and mom, and they seemed to have it all. Their sons, Lyle, 21 at the time of the crime, and Eric, 18, good-looking, outgoing young guys, star tennis players. They had the brightest of futures ahead. But behind those closed doors, the Menendez family was a cauldron of lies and secrets, and on August 20th, 1989, in Beverly Hills, it all boiled over. Jose and Kitty Menendez brutally murdered, and then, shockingly, Lyle and Eric, their sons, arrested for the crime. And in this ABC News documentary, we gather so many of the voices of the participants. You'll hear them, including for the first time in 20 years, we hear from Lyle Menendez by phone from prison about that night.
My name is Lyle Menendez. I've been in prison for 26 years. I am the kid that did kill his parents, and no river of tears has changed that, and no amount of regret has changed it.
Beverly Hills is a quiet town. Even the business district kind of folds up at 7 o'clock. We average 2 murders a year and really don't know what you're in for when you get a murder call.
What's the problem? Someone killed my parents. Were they shot? Yes.
12 shots in the middle of Beverly Hills on a Sunday night. And no one calls the police. We're waiting at the house. No one shows up. And I still can't believe it. I'm sitting on the stairs afterwards thinking the police are going to be there in seconds. They've got roving patrol.
And people, many people did hear the shots. Many neighbors came in and said they heard all these shots, but nobody called because they just figured this is Beverly Hills. This doesn't happen in Beverly Hills.
So you called the police, but at that point you had already decided.
We were very stunned, and we felt that we would go to jail, obviously, and we, it was a selfish reason to just not want to have to go through that.
You know, by this intersection, I could actually see the police tape and the police cars in front of Menendez's house. As we walked in the front door, the only thing I could really detect is the silence. And then in the back of the foyer was this library family room, which is where the murder occurred. The television was on, so it was just a normal evening for them. Kitty was wearing white. She was covered in blood. Jose had a shotgun blast to the back of his head. It was really horrendous.
When Jose and Kitty were found dead, the police didn't do what they normally do in a case like that.
There are things that could have been done that night that would have proven that they were the killers. The murder weapons were in their cars. Nobody bothered to look.
At the time, we felt they were victims, and you're not going to press them because their parents just got blown away.
I remember it was the morning after the murder. I pulled up to the house, and then all of a sudden, my car door slammed open. And Eric jumped in and scared the hell out of me. And frantically said to me that they needed my husband's legal help. I said, Eric, what's going on here? Well, he says, Mrs. Wright, my parents were murdered last night. And I said, what? He was not sad, not crying, no emotion whatsoever. Who would think of legal advice the day of your parents' murder, unless you're guilty?
But the real issue in this case, of course, wasn't who did it. The Menendez brothers quickly confessed after they were arrested. The question is, why did they kill their parents? And what they said about that in court, claims of a life of abuse, including sexual abuse at the hands of their father, that shocked the country, triggered a national debate. And one last thing, that interview with Barbara Walters back in 1995, that is the last time they saw each other. And if the penal system works, they will never see each other again.
What is it, like you said in the beginning, that this is something that has stayed with you all of these years? covering it.
It was so emotional, if you remember. Their testimony about this, their claims that this family was actually a toxic cauldron that they lived in all those years. And to be in that room where they told the story of their lifetime of abuse, which many people didn't believe, some people did, it was haunting. It really was.
And we're going to hear some things we haven't heard before in the
Yes,
documentary.
indeed. Yes, indeed. It's good work.
All right. Take care of that cold, Terry. All right. Truth and Lies, the Menendez Brothers, airs tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern right here.
Okay, let me go with Jason. Your take, before OJ, there were the Menendez brothers. When you hear that, what comes to mind?
Jordan, I think if we look back kind of chronologically over some of the more shocking high-profile trials, we have this, then we have OJ, we fast forward ahead, we have Casey Anthony, we have
Jody.
Her. And the trials have gotten more and more sensational, but I think the crimes have become more and more gruesome, and the unthinkable has become reality. I mean, you have people who are the 1%, and there's some evil lurking there with a gruesome murder, and then the defense basically to claim that they were being sexually abused by their parents as a justification. I mean, it was shocking. And lo and behold, as we sit here, 27 years later, what was unspeakable, what was unimaginable, what we all heard through this trial, it's just another episode of Law and Order now.
It really is.
So,
did you believe any of the sexual molestation?
Well, the thing is, it wasn't so much up to me. It was up to 12 people who clearly didn't. And that's why the brothers are going to be in prison for the rest of their life.
There were two trials, if you remember. The first one, they couldn't come to a verdict. And in the second one, a lot more evidence was allowed in.
Sure.
At least that's what I felt.
Well, people make self-serving claims all the time. But let's say for the sake of argument, and Alex, weigh in with me, that even if someone is a victim of abuse, whether it's domestic violence, sexual abuse, does that justify a first-degree premeditated murder? Because, look, we see it all the time with battered spouse syndrome, intimate partner syndrome, intimate partner abuse syndrome now, if you would, where things build up and fester over time where someone's abused and ultimately they kill. Does it perhaps mitigate at times the circumstances? Sure. That mitigation typically happens within plea negotiations, but blasting someone with a shotgun, and any sort of premeditation that leads up to it, juries don't look real fondly upon that, no matter what the circumstances are.
Yeah, I mean,
Alex?
the only way it would possibly be justified is if the murder was, contemporaneous with the sexual abuse. In other words, if there was somebody's raping somebody, and shortly thereafter the person that was raped, goes and gets a gun and shoots him dead, then that may be justified at that point. Maybe, at least you have much more of an argument at that point. But this case, it's highly questionable whether or not that ever happened, whether or not there was sexual abuse. But even if they were, I mean, that certainly wasn't the appropriate way to resolve that simmering issue. And what justification would there be for him killing the mother? They shot the mother multiple times in the knees and the face. This was brutal murder. And after they killed them, the brothers went and they bought Rolex watches, fast cars. They went on, trips around the world. They were living a high life. They spent like $1 million in 6 months living some fancy lifestyle. Anyway, there was one, believe it or not, if you can consider this, I found this almost amusing, believe it or not. And I don't, you may say, well, what about this entire story could somebody find amusing? Well, after they were arrested and they went to jail, I think it was these guys got married. They got married. Some women, they're not allowed conjugal visits, but there was, some women that were willing to marry them. And I don't know if it was Kyle or Eric, but this woman married him, and then she decided to break up with him when she found out that he was cheating while he was in jail. I found that amusing.
Yeah, that was definitely, as Jason said, one of the most watched trials, along with OJ and Casey, and I don't think you'll get any more of these big trials anymore because they're just so big. I mean, can they think top Jody Arias? I mean,
yeah, you'll get them.
What do you think, Jason? Do you think we'll ever get another high-profile case like this one, or Jody, or?
I mean, here's what I tell people, and the things that I see day to day. One day, if I ever decide to hang it up, I'll write a book, but nobody would believe me. They think it's pure fiction. I mean, we talk and we hear about these high-profile cases, but the crazy things that go on day to day. I do think we'll see something else like that. Of course. Whenever we have celebrities involved, look, when Michael Jackson died, look at the trial there with the doctor. I mean, there's so many bizarre circumstances, and let's be honest. You know why we're talking about this? Because the public has an appetite for it, and that's reality. I think sensationalism. I think there's a fascination with the legal system, and a righteous one at that. But I think that if the circumstances present, yes, there will be another three-ring circus, and we'll be right there talking about it. It's only a matter of time.
It's so true. I mean, the Jody Arias got so many people on the HLN network, and for all intents and purposes, after the trial was over, they let go of a lot of people via cut costs. But during that trial, Jody, a lot of people that came on television, not just they were, a friend of Jody. Besides attorneys, it was just everybody.
One of the most interesting things. I was doing a national television show, and like in a lot of cities, there's satellite uplink facilities. So basically, I got news for everybody. When you're seeing a cityscape behind us, it's just a green screen or a monitor, and it's a lockdown camera. But anyway, I was in this facility. It was during Super Bowl time in Phoenix, so a couple of years ago, and I was sitting in the green room waiting to pop into the studio, and who comes out? None other than Joe Theismann, former quarterback from the Washington Redskins. And first, let me just say, what a nice guy. I think he was on Fox Business promoting a product. And we just started chatting, and I introduced myself. He's like, I know you, and I want to ask you a couple of questions about Jody Arias, if you don't mind. I'm like, am I really having this conversation with Joe Theismann? It was crazy. And, again, he was the absolute nicest guy in the world. But I think, God, this trial, we talk about it so much, but if we look at it from 30,000 feet looking down, the way it broke so many different barriers, so many different facets of the community, everybody was just captivated by this. I mean, of course, there was an all-out media blitz, but there was a story to be told. Now, the flip side is I think it's wonderful that there's so much exposure with trials because people really understand the legal system in ways beyond their high school social studies classes, which, frankly, is where a lot of people just leave off. But I think that televising trials and publicizing them, I think it really brings it home, and it gives a lot of insight and education to the process. When, we were on the air talking about various motions or legal arguments or jury instructions, I think it really enhances people's understanding. So I think there's a good message, once we strip away all the fluff and the emotion. I think there's a lot of good that comes from it if we approach it in the right way.
No question. Okay, this is a very interesting story with these YouTube stars. They did something, and now they have lost their kids. Here is the story.
Now with that new fallout for the YouTube family whose extreme prank video sparked a major backlash, and TJ Holmes has new details for us.
The videos caused a firestorm.
Cody! Tell me! I didn't do that!
Parents pulling pranks on their kids, screaming at them, causing them to cry hysterically. And the videos racked up millions of views. But the youngest two are Heather Martin's stepchildren. Now their biological mom has come forward, releasing her own video with her lawyer, announcing that Michael and Heather Martin have lost custody, and the children are now in her care.
Emma and Cody are with me. I have emergency custody.
The mother's attorney says police and the court were instrumental in reuniting Hall with her children.
1, 2, 3.
The videos posted by the Martins on the popular Daddy of Five YouTube channel sparked a backlash. Many called the couple abusive. But last Friday, the Martins told us some of the videos were staged.
Some stuff is real. Some stuff was acted out, scripted.
Mike says deep down, he just thought becoming a celebrity would make his kids proud.
And when my kids looked at me, I was their hero.
For Good Morning America, TJ Holmes, ABC News, New York.
We have reached out to the Martins, and they are not commenting at this time. Our senior legal analyst, Sonny Hostin, joins us now with more.
Okay, let me start with you, Alex Sanchez. What's your take on this? And then we'll go to Jason.
Just to put it mildly, this guy's an absolute jerk. There's no question about it. To make the statement,
wanted to be a hero.
I thought, I think you're going to mix up heroism with, fame is unbelievable. And a lot of people do mix those up. A lot of people believe that just because a person is well known, or because they're famous, or because they have some, major achievement, this makes them automatic heroes. And they're not jerks anymore. But this guy's an absolute jerk. His kids should be taken away from him, or at least that family should be monitored. From what I saw of that tape, that was like torture. That was psychological torture of your own kids. One of the pranks they pulled was they would throw ink or disappearing ink on a rug, and then they would blame the kids. Now, these are young kids, and start screaming at them, look what you did to the rug, and get these kids screaming and crying and trying to defend themselves, and I didn't do it. What kind of nonsense is that? These kids don't even understand what being on YouTube is or being famous is. What the heck is this guy talking about? This guy should be slapped.
Jason Lamm, what's your take on this story?
Well, at a bare minimum, it represents extremely, extremely poor judgment. Now, I want to clarify for everyone. The kids were basically taken away, and then the biological mom had emergency custody. We didn't hear anything about criminal charges, and there's a big difference, and I think it's important to point out. Generally speaking, family courts are going to always be looking at the best interests of the minor children. And in this case, it probably would be best for the kids to get a little space and maybe to get some psychological evaluation, or as Alex wisely said, some monitoring of the family. But it doesn't necessarily translate to breaking a law and a prosecutor being able to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. Taking it to that sort of level, you just got to scratch your head and say, what the hell is wrong with you? Now, look, I'll admit it. I have a good time giving my teenage daughters a hard time. One of the reasons I was a little late getting in tonight is I was out with my daughters. It's one of their birthdays, and we mess with each other, and it's in good nature and good fun and in love. But when you hear kids screaming like that, you kind of got to wonder, And even if you're having your kid act that out, and a little kid, you got to say, what the hell is wrong with you? Is this, let them act out the Three Little Bears or something at that age, not, psychological torture.
Would you ever put them on YouTube or any medium like that, your kid?
No, we're actually very private with our kids. My wife was in television for many years, and we keep things very low key. We're very, very guarded on social media. But for some people, and this is a general statement, they get validation through social media and the internet. That's how they get a sense of accomplishment. Look, at the phenomenon, and I'll tell you, my teenage daughter's on Instagram, the value of a post is the number of likes that they get. But I think it's a very, very different thing when we're dealing with adults. And, you have the absolute constitutional right to be a dipshit. But when you have kids, it needs to stop, and you got to kind of step up your game a little bit and grow up.
No, there's no question about it. And the way they give out, you need a license to drive. I always say, use this. You should have a license to have kids. I mean, we spoke about the story before you came on about the father who got 45 years. Let me get your take on that, since we didn't get your take on that. Chance boy, the little kid, and the father just got... Yeah.
Well, he got whacked, and it's deservedly so. The mom's testifying against him, but it's a long, arduous sentence. And, these are the messages that need to be sent, these are among the most heinous crimes. But at the same token, you got to sit back and say, look, anyone who would even think about this, because everyone who's listening to this right now has got to be shaking their head, say, oh my God, what's wrong with this guy? And that's just it. And that's where we got to stop and say that there is something deeply and fundamentally wrong in their brain. And believe me, the punishment is appropriate. And but as I always say to people, you can't rationalize irrational behavior. How do you wrap your brain around something like that?
It's so true. And we also covered Happy Days star Erin Moran. What was your take? 56 years old, allegedly was homeless in 2012. A lot of child stars, this situation is nothing new.
Exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth. How many child stars have we seen over the years? And some are, fortunate enough that they're able to make a go of it. A lot of it, is poor financial planning. We've seen parents and guardians strip money away. But unfortunately, what happened with her, we don't know all the circumstances. There were some serious health issues involved. But what a tragic ending to what started as such a wonderful career. And let's also remember that, the dollar figures that are associated with Hollywood now, much, much higher than back in the day. Yes. I have a personal acquaintance and relationship with someone who is a child actor and on TV, I might add. And there were some great trips, and the family needed to sustain at a certain level, and unfortunately, she's still paying off some law school loans, which I'm quite confident that her contract would have covered and a lot more. Now, fortunately, she's got a good career and able to go on, but it's not an uncommon story that we hear.
Unfortunately, it's true. Okay, the former police officer who shot Walter Scott pleads guilty. Here's the story. Let's talk.
We move on tonight to that stunning about-face, that guilty plea from a former police officer in a racially charged shooting death that made national headlines. The incident all caught on video. That's Officer Michael Slager chasing Walter Scott, firing 8 times as Scott ran from him. ABC's Steve Osunsami in South Carolina tonight.
For nearly 2 years, the officer seen in this traffic stop claimed that he did nothing wrong. But tonight, a stunning reversal. And for black Americans who worry about traffic stops like these, a sense of justice.
Today is a good day for justice. I thank God for justice.
The officer behind the gun, 35-year-old Michael Slager, now admits he wasn't defending himself when he shot 51-year-old Walter Scott in the back in 2015, and that he acted with specific intent to do something the law forbids. Saying those words in court that he's guilty now puts an end to both the federal and state trials against him.
Today is rare. The Garners, the Blands, the Rice family, they didn't get this type of justice that we got today.
In state court, Slager explained that there was a violent fight that you didn't see in the cell phone video.
Fired until the threat was stopped, like I'm trying to do.
At sentencing later this year, prosecutors say they'll ask for hard time, 20 years. The Scott family would like life. David?
Steve Osensami with us tonight. Steve, thanks.
Okay, let's start off with Alex Sanchez on this story, and then we'll go to Jason. Michael Slager pleading guilty. Alex, let me hear your take first.
Well, first of all, I don't think he had any choice but to plead guilty. That tape was absolutely devastating. And why he was not acquitted, why there was a mistrial the first time is a mystery to me. There was one juror that apparently refused to find him guilty. The guy shot 8 times. I saw that tape. The guy was running away. He shot him in the back. And then it looked like he tried to plant a stun gun or try to plant some type of weapon on the guy, because he walked up to the guy and threw something on the floor. So this guy was dirty from the word go. He could not possibly win this case in a retrial or in a federal trial. He was going down the tube. So he took the only course of action that he could have taken in the case. But the question I have is, what on earth is going through this officer's mind when he stops this? I don't care if there was a violent fight or confrontation, which I don't believe there was. But if there was, once this guy started running away, why on earth did this officer, why did he feel compelled to shoot this guy in the back? It just tells you that there's improper training of certain police officers, and there are certain people that should not be in possession of weapons, because the power begins to control all of their actions. The fact that somebody's running away from them and not obeying their commands to stop, it's almost like a person that is in the middle of a highway and having a confrontation with another driver. They become crazy at that point. That's what happened with this cop. He saw a guy running away. The guy refused to stop, and it became a power game that he could not lose. But he did lose, because he's going to be spending an awful lot of time in jail.
Yeah, I think Alex hit the nail on the head. Look, just because you have a badge and a gun doesn't mean that you don't have anger, power, and control issues. And I think, most typically, take the cop thing out of it. We see road rage cases where people are tussling, and then the next thing you know, one car's following the other, and people are 50 miles away from where they started. Neither had any intention of going there, and they just lock in. But when it's a police officer with a deadly weapon, it's real dangerous. Now, I don't know what training, what vetting could root out every possibility. Of course, police go through various psychological exams as part of the hiring and training process. But I do think it's important to point out that this is an absolute slim minority of police officers out there. Unfortunately, they're the only ones that we're hearing about, and that the overwhelming majority of police officers do want a hell of a job. They have good judgment. It's a complicated and tough world. But yeah, this guy just basically lost it, and he'll be spending some prison time. The one distinction that I want to make is that he pled to federal civil rights violations. And if we think back to Rodney King, we remember what happened with the officers when they were tried in Los Angeles Superior Court, although there was a change of venue. Ultimately it was the feds that stepped in afterwards and prosecuted them on civil rights violations. That's what resulted in convictions. And as someone who right now is representing a law enforcement official on civil rights violations being prosecuted by the Department of Justice, fortunately it's not a fatality, these are very broad and sweeping laws that encompass a lot of conduct. So when this former officer is sentenced, even if it's the 20 years that the government's going to be recommending, yes, he will get away with murder, both literally and figuratively, because he would have done a whole lot more than 20, assuming it comes to fruition, if he was convicted on that murder charge.
Which is, I'm surprised, Jason, aren't you surprised that the state, because he was prosecuted by the state, and then the state essentially gave the case to the federal government. They didn't have to decline prosecution, the state. They could have said, we're going forward with this murder charge against the cop. We don't care what the feds are doing. But they, to me, it's almost like they wiped their hands clean. Oh, good, the feds are taking it. Let's get this political nightmare out of our system.
Well, I think you're right, because, and I don't know, and Alex, you can perhaps enlighten me with some wisdom, and for everyone listening, there's a couple different ways this could be happening, and Alex, please help us out. In light of the federal plea agreement, the conviction, if you would, the state case could be dismissed as part of the plea agreement, or there could be some sort of plea in the state case with an agreement that any sentence runs concurrent or at the same time as the one imposed in federal court. And that way, even though there's no additional time, there's still a mark of conviction, which is very important for victims. I don't know. Alex, help me out if you've got that info.
I think that, the two jurisdictions, the federal jurisdiction and the state jurisdiction, operate independently of each other. And just because he pleads guilty in the federal case, the feds don't have the authority to dismiss the state charges. And if he pleads guilty in the state case, the state doesn't have the authority to dismiss the federal charges. They're completely independent of each other. And more likely than not, though, they could work in cahoots with each other, where the feds could say, well, listen, we'll let you plead guilty to this civil rights charge, but then you have to go to state court and you have to plead guilty to that charge, and the state court agrees with this. In other words, the prosecutors in the state and the federal government are working hand in hand with each other, but one has no authority over the other in terms of how the case is going to be prosecuted. So I don't know why the state, was it Carolina? I think it was the state of Carolina, right? I don't know why they did not say, hey, we're going forward with this. Yeah, we're going forward with this murder case. It happened in our jurisdiction. We have a rock-solid case, and we're going after this man. I think more likely than not, the prosecutors decided, listen, let's just wash our hands clean, let him plead guilty to federal charges, and let's get rid of this mess. And that's not, prosecutors do that all the time. They want to clean their plate, get rid of cases. That's what they did here, I think.
Well, I think it's also it's also an interesting precedent, under Jeff Sessions. And I'm not saying it's the first prosecution of a police officer, but, he made a very public statement about holding law enforcement officers accountable in cases where they violate the civil rights of others. Now, that's a great talking point from the Imperial Wizard. However, it's another thing to put. Oh, that wasn't lost on you. Oh, nice. But this is the kind of thing that does have political implications. That the Justice Department can stand tall and say, look, we're walking the walk. So it will be interesting on a broader scale to see how the current administration and specifically the Justice Department proceeds. Personally, I think, obviously the current administration is very pro-law enforcement, whereas under the previous administration. It's not to say that they weren't pro law enforcement, but they were much more scrutinizing of officers' actions. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
We'll have to read those tea leaves.
No question. And Jason, thanks so much for joining us. Tell people, my audience, where they could find you. Maybe you have a Twitter that you want to mention or a website.
Well, sure. The first thing is you can find me on the basketball court or a bar, or at 6 in the morning hiking on a mountain. But other than that, you can find me on Twitter, PHX Criminal ATTY. PHX Criminal ATTY. Reach out. Love to interact with people. Let me know what's on your mind.
And you won a nice big case about a month ago, right?
Well, that was actually, time flies, Jordan, that was actually about a year ago. There was a very high-profile series of freeway shootings. It was the I-10 freeway shootings in Phoenix. That occurred in late August of 2015, and my client was charged in 4 of those 11 shootings. All very high-profile case, made local news, national news for quite a period of time, brought a lot of terror in the city, and I'm really proud to say that we put together one hell of a dream team, and all charges against him were dismissed. And I want to be clear, it's not on a technicality. We proved that the evidence was not there, and they had the wrong guy. And, you know, when you get it right, it just feels so good, because the last thing we want is an innocent person sitting there facing life as he was. So that was a real gratifying outcome. His name is Leslie Merritt Jr. That's a real easy thing to Google, and you know people can read a lot more about it. It was really fascinating, and now we're involved in some civil litigation against the local county and the state of Arizona. And I won't say anything other than it's proceeding.
And you won't have to deal with that, what's his name there, that sheriff anymore that resigned?
Well,
what's his name?
All not so good, Arpaio, all not so good things must come to an end. So our sheriff of many years, he's a character indeed. His pink underwear and his tent city, that's all kind of fading out. There is a new sheriff in town, not to be cliche. I will say that, Big Mouth Joe Arpaio, he was very popular, and he was quite the character in front of the camera, but I've had many opportunities to visit with him one-on-one, and I assure you it's a much more demure individual. And there is a new sheriff in town, very experienced former sergeant of the Phoenix Police Department, and he's really got tight reins. And I know it's fun to watch, but if it's all the same to you guys, we're just going to stay out of the news out here for a while.
No question. Okay, you enjoy that birthday party, and happy birthday to your little daughter there, and many more. So thanks for joining us.
It's always a pleasure to be on with you, Jordan. Thank you, Alex. So good to be on with you, and keep fighting the good fight. Look forward to it.
Let's do this again, the three of us.
Look forward to it. Bye-bye.
Okay, Alex, thanks so much for coming on the show. I like you and Jason together. A very good combination.
Yeah, he's a very good lawyer. I read about that case, and he really did do a dynamite job on that. There's no question about it. So he's one of the top lawyers around. So I was very impressed with how he handled that matter. So I'm very happy to be on the same show with him. But it's always great to be on the show. You know, I really enjoy being on the radio. I enjoy being on the radio with you. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to speak to any of the great callers there tonight. But
like Sarah Kardashian.
Been a lot of fun. Oh yeah, I was expecting her to call.
Usually calls in Mary.
The usual crowd that is very much interested in the justice system, and they ask some great questions. Anyway, Jordan.
But you are one of the best that they ask for.
I'm just a little guy from the Bronx, just practicing criminal law. That's who I am.
And we're from New York, both of us. There's nothing wrong with that. It might be a little costly, but there's nothing like New York. Once you leave it, you want to come back.
Absolutely.
Okay, Alex, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk soon.
All right, pal. Good night. Bye.
Okay. That was Alex Sanchez, who did a wonderful job. We went over a lot of great stories tonight. The Menendez brothers, 27 years later. The former South Carolina police officer who pleaded guilty in the fatal shooting that was caught on video. The Happy Days star Erin Moran, who passed away at the young age of 56. The YouTube stars, you should look this up. They lost custody of their children. We spoke about that. The father of baby Chance, sentenced to 45 years. Terrible story. But I think we did a good, solid job from A to Z. I also want to remind you, you could mark down on your calendars, May 25th, we'll have Beth Karras, Tom Mesereau, either on the 18th or the first week in June. I have no idea yet. And we'll also have Alex back, and more to come. Also, let me give us some shout-outs to Doreen, Vicky, Phyllis, Pager, Maddie. Thank you for all your support. You guys are wonderful. Also, let's see here. So, please follow the show, King Jordan RAD, and thank you for everybody who supports the show. Alex does a wonderful job. Just to let you know that anytime I need him, he's always there. So let me give him that shout out. Okay, let's leave you with on a Throwback Thursday. This is one of my favorite songs that my mom got me into. It's called The Wind Beneath My Wings by Bette Midler. We'll leave you with that, and have a good night. We'll talk next time here on King Jordan.